what are some key points or key things to consider for somebody getting started with their estate plan?
Yeah. So my first tip on getting started with your estate planning is getting organized, right? That's kind of the hardest thing, is to get started and getting organized. And so my suggestion is, as you're getting started in this process, sit down and kind of evaluate what it is that I own and how do I own it, right? So kind of setting forth, like writing it on a piece of paper. Hey, I own a house. How do I own it? Do I own it individually? Do I own it jointly? Do I own it with rights of survivorship? How do I hold my bank accounts? Do I have beneficiary designated on those accounts? And all of that part is kind of looking through what consists of my estate, right? Vehicles, tangible possessions that you may want to pass on. And so kind of looking at the universe of things that you own will help, prepare yourself as you go into that process. And so the more organized you are, you can kind of bring that into your estate planning attorney and say, hey, this is what I own and this is what I want to plan for. And then these are possibly my goals that I might have. And so kind of categorizing your different assets that you may own, and then being able to get deeds and mortgages, documents together, so that when you walk into your estate planning attorney's office, you can kind of get into kind of the nuts and bolts and getting to your goals and plans, efficiently, and making the best use of your time with your attorney. And so that kind of be my top goal, is just being prepared and being organized is kind of the first key starting point.
Yeah, that's super good. And, so when I think about that, like, in getting organized, honestly, is a big part of just getting started with a financial planner as well, just because we want to see what you have. We want to understand what those are, because it ties those goals. And, I imagine maybe it's common, maybe it's not common, but, always incorporating your professionals into these conversations. If you don't know what some of those things are, you can always reach out to your financial planner. You can always ask your tax preparer, your CPA, for these things to help you get organized. So then when you go and do these things, as we talked about, it just helps that process move along. So you can really spend that time asking, what are your goals? What are your things? And you brought up something that was really interesting, possessions and other things, right? Like, I feel like, again, it's so important to talk through things, because maybe there's like family heirloom, or like a specific possession that maybe like your son or your daughter might want to have in the end. But if it's not, maybe you want to communicate those things, beforehand, or include that, right? So anyway, just that's my thoughts there. Any other things to consider when getting started?
Yeah, and you brought up a really good topic about, incorporating your team of professionals, right, to the extent that you can. I totally am on board with that. Estate planning is really a team effort, right? You have your financial advisor, you have your tax advisor, all of that, your estate planning attorney, they're all part of your team. You're the head coach. You tell us what to do, and we'll kind of give you that input in terms of how we can strategize to make put together the best plan possible. And I find that's tremendously fruitful, because, from a financial planner standpoint, you guys have that multiple interactions with your clients, and you understand some of the nuances to their situation that sometimes don't come up in the initial meeting, right, with the attorney. And your professional has that background to be able to, hey, this weighs heavily on their heart. This is something they're concerned about. It's kind of help facilitate that discussion in a more natural, way that, especially because sometimes you meet your attorney for the very first time, the very first meeting, and you're supposed to divulge all of these really difficult situations or, circumstances in your family, and your financial advisor or your other professionals can help with that process. And I find that tremendously valuable, and you're totally right on that.
Yeah, so good. Jason, any thoughts, any other questions you want to throw in here?
No, I love it. I love the idea of, before you take action, let's get organized, right? And I think that applies to so much in life, right? Take inventory where we're at and make sure you really know where you are before you decide on where you're going to go.
Yeah, because it can be overwhelming, right? Like, just thinking about putting all these things together, making this significant investment. I think just starting with just simply cleaning your own, getting organized, seeing what you have, and then taking that step by step, right? Just taking it one step at a time. And it's not as daunting or as intimidating as it may seem, or at least I try not to make it that way. And so, it's just taking it one step at a time, and then you'll get to the completion, and you'll have a lot more peace about your overall situation and your overall plan. So
yeah, and I feel like, you know, in a lot of respects, you know, people are busy. People got things going on. People got young families, or that, you know, they don't really know where to get started. And for me, getting organized, you know, as Travis is saying, like, you know, even with a financial plan, getting started with those types of things, like, it really helps you bring that just foundational, like, okay, I understand what I have. I understand what I'm going to do. You know, not that you don't have to worry about it, but it's like you kind of like set that aside for a little while because you've achieved that, you've got that stuff written out. Then it could be something like, hey, let's come back to this in, like, you know, 5-10 years, maybe we have kids, let's come back to it. But hey, at least right now we got this, you know, foundation set, and we can just build from there. So super important.
Yeah, building that foundation, that's exactly what we talked about today, right? Is these foundational documents kind of set that solid, you know, comfort level, and then you can build off of that, right? Like, you can make amendments, you can make changes, but once you get that foundation set, you know, you can build and you can have that peace of mind, and, you know, yeah, you can make that adjustments as you need to do so.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Well, yeah, thanks so much again, Travis, for giving us just an extra bonus tidbit here, getting organized. So, you know, encourage you listeners to just, get out there, get organized. Find those professionals that you feel comfortable with, that you trust, that you can build relationships over time. But yeah, again, thank you so much, and hope you guys all have a great day.
Thanks, Travis.
Thanks, guys.
The opinions and statements presented on this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations. Never make any investment or financial decisions based on information offered on this show without first consulting their financial, legal, or tax advisor. All economic and performance information mentioned on the show is historical in nature and is not indicative of any future results. All indices mentioned on this show are unmanaged and cannot be invested in directly. All information is believed to be from reliable sources. However, we make no representation as to its completeness or accuracy. Lastly, all opinions expressed by Jason Cutitta, Paul McWilliams, and any guests on the show are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of or are endorsed by ToBA Financial or Inspire Advisors. For Jason Cutitta, investment advisory services are offered through ToBA Financial LLC, a registered investment advisor offering advisory services in the state of Hawaii and in other jurisdictions where exempt from registration. And for Paul McWilliams, investment advisory services are offered through Inspire Advisors LLC, a registered investment advisor with the SEC.